Hello and welcome back to Women's Sacred Conversations, formerly known as Veni Connect. These conversations are sacred because they resonate with the energy of helpfulness, support, deep connection, and inspiration from the perspective of feminine divine qualities. We are women having sacred conversations, ones that are revered, spiritual, and holy, and are to be honored. I describe them this way because the conversations we have together, they uplift us, they educate us, and they let us know that we are not alone. We are together on a path to greater wholeness and happiness, constantly evolving, right, and expanding our consciousness. All people are welcome to listen in and learn, and yet we will stay focused on the voices and perspectives of women. I'm your host, Dawn Morningstar, master coach, author, and founder of Venerable Women. And what's that? It's a sisterhood, a philosophy, and a movement. Venerable Women emboldens women to change the world by bringing our wisdom to life. Does that describe you? Are you dedicated to changing our world for the better and know that you have the wisdom that will be helpful to that end? That's who Venerable Women are. We are awakening and sharing our gifts. So venerable means worthy of honor, love, and respect by virtue of wisdom and experience. All people are venerable and worthy at their core. Venerable women are learning to claim the idea of their own venerability and worth after 10,000 years of patriarchy. And we are committed to honoring the venerability in other people. So enlightened women and men who live with a sense of worth and loving connection are really the keys to manifesting the kind and loving world that we're creating together. We are ready. In this podcast, we will have a centering meditation. Don't do this if you're driving, please. Cosmic influences, Dear Venerable, and a guest interview. There will be links to everything we mention in the podcast show notes, which I will send out to you in the next few days. If you are not on our mailing list, please sign up on the Venerable Women website so you'll receive the recording of tonight's call. Also, it would really mean a lot to me if you would subscribe to our monthly podcast and give us a review and a rating. That's how others can find us. Our theme for this podcast is Thinking Like a Visionary, and our very special guest is Carole Hyder, a renowned Feng Shui expert and pioneer in creating integrative space strategies in the healthcare arena. Many of us know something about Feng Shui now, yet in 1992, when Carole first brought it on the scene here in the Midwest, that was definitely not the case. If we have time after Carole's interview, we can share the story of how her Feng Shui class in the mid-90s caused a very big stir in a suburban community. Yes. So I love these sacred conversations, and I'm so grateful that you're a part of them. To learn more about Venerable Women and to listen to some of these past conversations, visit our website, venerablewomen.com, and click on Listening Library, and you can hear them all. We will unmute everyone at the end of the podcast for those who would like to share thoughts or ask questions. And you can use the chat feature during the call if you'd like. So before we do a little centering meditation together, here's a bit about Venerable Women, which is sponsoring this podcast. It's a sisterhood, philosophy, and movement for women who want to change the world by bringing their wisdom to life. You can learn more by reading my book, Venerable Women, Transform Ourselves, Transform the World, or listening to it on audible.com. The 12 Venerable Attitudes, now known as the V-Attitudes, not to be confused with the Beatitudes, are a foundation of inspiration, a how-to, so that we can gracefully and communally integrate into wholeness. So, as I said before, if you're driving while listening, please wait until you are no longer driving to do this meditation. Your safety matters. So go ahead and get yourself into a comfortable position, and we will begin this meditation. When we meditate together in real time or whenever we are listening to this, we create a powerful and loving energetic field. Now, take a moment to close your eyes and simply focus on your breath to bring you into this moment. Gather yourself in, relax, and let go of everything but this moment. We are uniting our energies in a conscious, peace-filled way. This is a beautiful time to call in higher energies such as angels, saints, guides, sages, sacred beings of light, ascended masters, to bless us and open us to being present in this moment. The energy we experience together blesses each one of us and expands out and out into the world. Fully feel peace in your mind, body, and spirit right now. Really take a moment to feel peace in your mind, body, and spirit. Extend peace in the direction of your ancestors and also to future generations. Feel the blessing of standing on the middle bridge of possibility. Acknowledge yourself for taking time to go within and to come into the present moment, opening yourself to fully honor your visionary self, seeing your vision and trusting it, whatever it is for you at this time in your life. Your vision and heart's desire is the call of your soul longing to express itself. So think about that for a moment. Your vision, whatever that may be, is the call of your soul longing to express itself in the world. See it, feel it, trust it, and open to bringing your vision to life. So now just take a moment to feel something that's wanting to be born in the world through you. Become aware of the energetic field our visions create, real and alive in this moment. So picture the people on this call and all of the people who will be listening to the podcast, all really putting attention on the visions that we have in our lives. And know that they are real and alive. So now come fully back into your body and enjoy the tingling sensation of a vision that you hold for yourself or for our world, pulsating through you. And return your attention fully to this time and space, wiggling fingers and toes. And as I like to end so many of these meditations with the words that have ended prayers and meditations throughout the centuries, Amen, Om, Shanti, Aho, so it is, and blessed be. Beautiful. And do a nice little stretch. Move yourself around. Really feel yourself present in your body. So now we're going to move into, it's time for cosmic influences. And the reason that we do this is we know that we are part of the cosmos and we are influenced by all kinds of things. We are influenced by astrology, numerology, all different kinds of things in the cosmos. And so today I'm going to focus on, I'm going to focus on cosmic influences from Emily Trinkas. Emily is an amazing astrologer. As a matter of fact, I love her work so much I quoted it several times in my book, Venerable Women, Transform Ourselves, Transform the World. And so what she tells us is that this Aries new moon on April 5th planted a potent seed for new beginnings. However, with Mercury still being in Pisces and emerging from its retrograde hangover, the cycle has been slow to get started. And you may have been feeling plagued by fogginess, exhaustion, and uncertainty. So now, as we approach the peak of this cycle, Friday's full moon, we're coming into a major energy shift. After more than 2 months in Pisces, Mercury will move into Aries Tuesday night, bringing a surge of clarity and momentum. Oh, that's tonight. Cool. So that means we're going to feel this real sense of feeling clear and gaining momentum. So the full moon is the emotional and energetic high point of the lunar cycle, lighting up what has been hidden in the subconscious and inspiring revelation, breakthrough, and healing. How does that sound? To have some revelations, breakthroughs, and healing. Situations come to a head at the full moon, marking a turning point when we can choose to continue on the same path that we've been on, or we can move forward in a new direction. So Friday's full moon, that's this Friday coming up, could be an especially potent wake-up call and turning point. And relationships are a major focus for change and reconfiguration. And then I always like us to remember that relationships include our relationship with ourselves as well. So now it's time for Dear Venerable. So these are questions that people either ask me or email me, or I overhear somebody talking about. So here's our Dear Venerable for this month. How come many of us have a vision of something that we'd like to share in the world and it doesn't seem to manifest or come true? So I think that's a really great question. And here's a simple formula for success in our sacred endeavors. And I'm sure that in the interview with Carole, which will be happening in a few minutes, I'm sure she's going to echo and expand on some of these successes, these formulas, these different points for our success. So the first one is to listen to your intuition, to feel into what it is that you want to create. And even though many of us were taught as children to stop daydreaming or get your head out of the clouds, that is exactly where many new ideas that change our world or our own lives begin. And the second one is to gain clarity about the end result you'd like to accomplish. For example, if you want to write a book, determine the clear message you'd like to convey to your readers. If you want to change your life in a profound way, decide and envision the person you want to be at the end of your transformation. The next one is let go of fear, and instead of having fear, replace it with curiosity and knowledge. Take a broad view of the world and see how your idea fits in. Read and learn everything you can and need to know about your area of focus, becoming as expert as you can. The next one is get professional assistance to help you make your dream a reality. If you're writing a book, hire a professional editor. Starting a business, hire those in areas that you're going to need help in, such as a web designer or business coach or so on. Regarding taking a big trip, even though there are so many resources online for travel, you may end up saving time and money and finding out about little-known experiences or destinations by hiring a travel professional for at least part of your trip. The next point is to stay dedicated, persistent, and focused while allowing for some flexibility in your plan. This is the part where I think a lot of people really go off course, veering off in too many directions, distracting them from their goal. And then what that does is it waters down the effects of what it is that you're trying to offer in the world. It's kind of like the bright and shiny object syndrome. And I think many of us can relate to that. But to really stay focused is key. It's totally key. And ask your vision from time to time what it wants and needs. Asking the vision rather than constantly trying to figure it out on our own. Using just, our thinking part of our minds, but to ask the vision, what does it want and need? So, speaking of visionary thinking, it is my honor to introduce our special guest and my very dear friend, Carole Hyder. Here's a little bit about Carole. Carole is an internationally recognized consultant, speaker, teacher, author, and trainer in the field of Feng Shui. Her integrated spaces strategy combines ancient practices with modern research to create superior environments in the healthcare industry. Carole has been a Feng Shui consultant since 1992, having studied with His Holiness Grandmaster Thomas Lin Yun, Her Holiness Crystal Chu Rinpoche, and Roger Green, all master teachers in their respective philosophies of Feng Shui. Her innovative work has been incorporated in hundreds of residential and commercial environments with a recent focus on the healthcare industry. In 1998, Carole founded the Wind and Water School of Feng Shui, a 7-month certification program for those interested in studying Feng Shui in greater depth. The school is licensed by the Minnesota Department of Higher Education and has certified over 400 students. And Carole has written 3 books, Wind and Water, Living Feng Shui, and Conversations with Your Home. She has also produced a video DVD entitled The Science of Feng Shui, and her recent collaboration with Grammy-winning producer and musician Jeff Bova has produced 2 CDs. The first one is Harmonize Your Home, and the second one is The Bridge Home, both created with the express intention of incorporating positive Feng Shui principles in the space. Carole, welcome.
Wow, thank you. Some of that's even true. That's great. Thank you, sweetie.
So happy to have you.
I'm so honored to be here, Dawn. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, it's really, truly our honor, all of us. We get to experience, part of your journey. I've been so impressed because I was there at the beginning many years ago when you were right after you had first gotten started. And I wanted to ask you some questions that I thought would really help people who are trying to become more visionary in their thinking, whether it be about starting a new business or a new project or a new endeavor. And I wondered, how did you decide to start your own business, Carole?
Well, I'm not really the poster child for how to start a business because what happened for me is Feng Shui really chose me, and it just wouldn't let go. And I had another business. I was doing something else, and I heard about it. It was quite a moment for me when I first heard about it, and I went out. Professor Lin was teaching in Berkeley, and I thought, well, I'm just going to go out because this is really amazing. But it was never going to be a big part of my life, never, because I had this other thing going, and so I went out there several times. He was kind of loose, you'd get on his email list, and it would be sort of, next week we think we're going to have a group. And there were a small group of us. We would travel from afar and go sit with him. But it always seemed like I don't want to say a hobby, but a side thing. It was something else that I did. The thing that was rather sobering about it is it was effective. Yes. Something always happened, and it sort of, there were moments when I thought, I don't know what I'm dealing with here, because the minute I do something positive happens, and my friends were inviting me over, and it's just something about it. I thought I gotta just stay with my first business and let this kind of go. But wouldn't you know it, somebody bought my other bill, came along and decided to buy my first business. And they're like, well, dang, what? and even then I thought, this isn't going to amount to anything. But you know what? I'll just do it for now until my next thing comes along. That's how unevolved I was at that point. It never occurred to me that this was going to really take off. And so I spent the first couple of years just going, well, I wonder what I'm really going to do with my life. I wonder what's going to really happen here. Well, yeah, I'm doing this feng shui. Yeah, I'm doing this. But there's something else. And it just was relentless. I mean, even when I would say I am just not going to go to somebody else's house. This is done. Something would come along. I go, well, all right, I'll do one more. This is the last house that I'm not doing anymore. So I wasn't a very ready and willing candidate. I think back on it, and I think the feng shui gods should have said, just leave her alone. She doesn't do this. God, work so hard to get her to cooperate. But when I realized that I think it had legs and traction. By then, I'm really starting to look down the road, like maybe there's a book, or maybe there's a training, or, because people were asking me about it, like, oh, why don't you write a book? Oh, why don't you, do a class and train us? And, that wasn't where I wanted to go. I really didn't know where I wanted to go, but it isn't that I didn't want to go there. I just didn't think there was a possibility. It only took a commitment, a final commitment at one point, and the doors just swung wide open. And I find that such a tender memory for me, that despite it all, Feng Shui just stood there and said, I'm not leaving you. And you'll come around. You'll eventually come around. And I did. And so by then, I was like, I'd already gotten a little traction and a little notoriety. And then it was like, wow, well, I guess I better decide how I'm going to do this. I hadn't planned anything. And maybe that was on purpose, because I might have planned it to death or something. But,
yeah.
It had to be organic. And that is one thing I learned about this business as opposed to my other one, is this one is organic. It just kind of defies the norm, which I've learned to work with and dance with. But it took me a while. It's like, wait a minute, that's not supposed to happen yet. Or, wait, I don't, I've set my hours. I'm not, well, in Feng Shui, it's like you speak at night, you teach at night, you go to somebody's house at night. That was like, wow, I am actually going out at night doing this is unbelievable. So I had to kind of let go of some things. And once I did and started to relax into it, the ride was much easier when I stopped struggling with it.
Yeah, that's amazing. So when you say something is organic, what is it that you mean by that?
It wanted to, that's probably a good, so here's what I was used to. I was used to a business that was quite successful. It was a very creative business. I had it for many years. And I just knew that if we did a certain amount of dollar volume each week, then I could meet payroll, or I could meet overhead. If I did a certain amount of dollar volume in the month, then there would be some left over for advertising, or for doing some kind of a promotional thing, or doing several lunch and learns, which cost money. And so it was a simple thing to go, here's the amount coming in, here's the amount that can go. I had a budget. When I got into Feng Shui, I would have moments when I'd be like, I don't know what I'm doing here. Like, nobody's calling me. I don't really know. And then the next week, 12 people would call. I think one week I had 9 appointments. It was pretty rough. I should never have done that. But, it's like, and then the next week I had nothing. And I wasn't used to that. I was used to having a schedule that I could subscribe to. For one thing, I had employees, and I couldn't just jerk them around any which way. I had to go, no, I turned work away. But now it was just me. And so I kind of got on this mindset of let's see where this goes, because I wasn't in charge. I thought I was, but it was coming from all sides at this point. You have to know, back 25 years ago, almost 30 years ago, this was about the only show in town, and actually in the Midwest. And so there were calls from all over, and I did a fair amount of traveling. You know, and now in hindsight, I go, wow, these were big things. But at the time, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to Neocon, which is a major design show worldwide in Chicago. And I spoke there. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go there. I'm speaking. You know, like I didn't understand even the significance of what I was doing, probably just as well.
Yeah. So what do you wish you had known at the beginning of all of this?
Well, I guess, you know, I've thought about that, Dawn, because I thought, well, if I would have been in my other mindset, I would have been able to kind of manage it better and had more of a structure to how I was doing this, as opposed to saying I'm doing 9 appointments this week. I would say, no, my limit is 4. And so you'll have to wait 2 weeks. I just took it as it came, because, well, number one, keep in mind, for the first 3 years, I thought this was a flash in the pan. And so I kind of thought, well, take it while you can, you know, like do it while it's there, because soon enough it will not be there. So that was a good business move. Really smart. I look at that, but so I did. I found myself kind of, it felt like I was jerking around, you know, like teaching at a class at night, and the next morning I had an early morning another speaking event, and then in the afternoon I had 2 back-to-back points. That's crazy making. And yet I did it because I didn't have, I couldn't figure out what the structure was, because I knew what it was in my other business and it didn't fit. There were no statistics that I could take from my first business into this one, because number one, I didn't have employees, I didn't have overhead, I had me. And I didn't quite know how to just manage it. So it was a free-for-all for a while. And I mean, it's not a good way to start a business. I mean, I wished in hindsight, wished I would have had a mentor. I mean, I wished I would have had, you know, some kind of a mentor that I could have turned to say, okay, this is what's happening here. And I'm kind of just in this frenzy and doing whatever I can. Boy, having somebody that can kind of guide you, even if they don't know your business, but they know business, or they know life. Maybe that's a better word. That's a key thing, you know, whether it's a business you're trying to do, or you're trying to write a book, or you're trying to step into the art world. It's just important to have somebody who's walked ahead of you. There's tons of people out there. Now, my argument would have been to you in the past, nobody's walked ahead of me in Feng Shui, and that would have been true. But lots of people had walked ahead of me in terms of starting a business that hit the ground running, and I couldn't keep up. And so I was so busy trying to keep a hold of it that I didn't look up long enough to say, I really need some help here. I think, and I wore myself out. I really wore myself out.
What would support have looked like to you? Like, well, let's fast forward. You described really beautifully how it all started for you. What would you say to someone who is getting started now? I heard you loud and clear say have a mentor of some sort, or a business coach. What other kind of support do you think is helpful to people who have a visionary or a pioneering idea like you did back then?
So I think one of the things that now, how many 30 years later, I've figured this out, but I think that one of the things that I wished I would have had in place back then was a guiding formula, or a guiding something that at the end of it I would have said, I don't do that kind of work, or I do mainly this kind of work, because I was doing everything, because I hadn't clarified anything. I hadn't clarified. So I might have said back then, I only do residential work, But the thing is, there was no one else around, and, you know, we're pleasers, and I wanted to help this little restaurant get off their ground, and, oh, sure, I'll come, but it's unhandy because they have to do it after hours, which meant I was there at 10:30 at night. You know, it was like, oh. And so if I would have had something that said to me, you know, I would have said to myself, like, I want this to be a creative experience always. I want to be inspired by it, but I need to have some integrity with myself. Boy, those are words that I wished I'd have had in place early on. Like, because then I would have had a roadmap.
Yes.
Instead of just like, you know, going down every road, I would have said, you know, this isn't going to give me a thrill. I don't think this is for me, because I did do a lot of appointments that I went. I wish I was tired, or I was uncomfortable for whatever reason. I didn't feel safe. Not too many of those, but every now and then I'd have something like, I wish I wouldn't have done this. Or it was just out of an area that I really didn't want to do. I'm trying to think of, oh, you know, like people would have me come, and truthfully, they would hire me to do their car. And it'd be like, yeah, okay, but is this going to inspire me? Is it? And it was all about how wonderful this big Maserati was. And I thought, I wished I would have had something in place to have said, you know, I don't do that. I think that's a really key thing, because now, you and I have talked about this, Dawn, now we know our parameters.
Yes.
But it was trial and error, and it was parameterless for a fair amount of time, until I went, all right, wait a minute. This, I'm learning to not like this, which is, well, wait, this is Feng Shui. This is about beauty. This is about a creative inspired space. This is about order. I should love this. And now I could feel myself going, I don't think I like this. And it was because I was spread out all over. And instead, and I consult with students all the time and say, find your sweet spot.
Yes.
You mentioned the phrase earlier, something about call of the soul. What's the call of the soul? Yeah, I thought Feng Shui was call of the soul. Well, that was part of the call, but the call of the soul was more about the certain kind of residential work that I took, and some corporate. Now my call of the soul is healthcare. And so it changed, it morphed over time. It didn't just like all of a sudden one day, but I started to see that that's really where I want to go, because it's challenging. They need it. It's creative. I can educate people. You know, it just taps into all the things I love. And as a result, I do fewer and fewer residential, unless it's somebody I really know, because it doesn't challenge me anymore. And, you know, finding those descriptors are really important. And it, you know, that's for my business. But even if you were like making a move, you know, deciding to move to Denver, deciding to move to Denmark, you know, like, will it fill those needs that you have? Like, what is the call of your soul? And will Denver do it for you? Or do you really need to go to Denmark? Isn't that clever how I did Denver?
I like it. I like it. And it sounds like another question we could ask ourselves is, how inspired will I be doing this? And and how is it expressing the call of my soul? And what does it feel like to me when I'm doing it? And I think those are, especially for people just starting out, like, I love the idea of you suggesting having guiding descriptors. Like, how will I know if I'm on my path or not? How will I know? And that's really, really good to know. So how did you navigate through all of these years? Was it through intuition and kind of seeing where you wanted to go? It sounds like you started in one place, residential, and it's really morphed more into something where you can help in a different arena, i.e. healthcare, which certainly needs some soulful, you know, kinds of help, really.
Very much so. Yeah, very much so, Dawn. I think that, well, you know, so many of us understand the concept that everything is energy.
Yes.
I mean, acupuncture, qigong, tai chi, feng shui. I mean, they all operate on everything is energy. And so I have had conversations with them. But once I got on board that this is viable, that this business has been hitting me over the head very, consistently and doggedly, despite my saying, I don't know, I'm waiting for the next thing. I'm sure at some point this Feng Shui energy must have gone, we're about ready to leave you because you are so not cooperating. But I started to communicate with the business.
Beautiful.
And I've done this with projects. I did this with writing my books. I do this on a regular basis with my school. And it's a meditation. It's an intuitive meditation where I bring my question to the school, to my business, to the book I'm writing, and ask for guidance. It's pretty amazing. It gets me out of it. And I have learned to be really open about, and I will share one piece, and Jane, who is on the call, will maybe, I'm sure, appreciate this, but I have a partner in the business now, and we both had dug in our heels about taking our training program virtual. And about a year, and I was hearing the school say, you got to take it virtual. I want to be virtual. And I'm like, no, you're mistaken. We're not doing that. And so at last year, in the middle of the program with the students that we had coming in, I had sort of an epiphany, and it was kind of how you come out of sleep in the mornings. I get a lot of really juicy insights.
Yes.
Sometimes in the middle of the night, but a lot of times I'm just waking up. Well, that school came and sat on the bed and said, damn it, I want to be virtual. This is the last year you are having students. This has got to be how it's going to be. So, of course, I had to go to my partner, Lisa, and go, Lisa? And she's totally on board with it. I mean, I wasn't shocking her by any means, but it really, it's what helps me. It's like I have a business meeting, and it's with that energy.
Yes.
And I've done it with my books, especially the last one I wrote called Conversations with Your Home, which had some issues for me. And that book just, again, was relentless. And twice I walked away from it and said, I'm not writing it. And twice that book came back and said, I'm really sorry, but I'm not letting you go.
Wow.
I need this written. And so I would change my attitude and decide, all right, I need to listen to this. This is really important. So that's when I talk about it doesn't have structure. I never did that with my other business because, well, I wasn't in that frame of mind. But this one is now in this phase of what I'm doing on this planet. Boy, I have to be really, my intuition's got to be honed so that I can really pay attention. I know it's not coming from me. I know it's coming from somewhere, and I can, for the most part, trust it. That's a business that's organic and alive.
Yes. So it sounds like asking your vision or your book or your business and actually listening for what it has to say is really key. And that was kind of a new concept for me, and that's something that I have been doing with Venerable Women over the past couple of years, is asking it what it wants to be. So I totally understand what you're saying and agree 100%. So how would people find out about your school? Would you want to give us the website for the school?
Sure. Yep, the school is windwaterschool.com. And
wow, that's easy.
It's pretty easy. We've got we're in the midst of a training program, a 7-month training program right now, and so it's past the time to get in that. But we also do a 9-week virtual program that's really fun, and Jane has taken it, I think, several times. Jane is on the call. It really helps you understand your own home. It's virtual. We have the whole thing is videoed, and my partner Lisa and I get on 3 different times throughout the course of that 9 weeks and just kind of talk people through it. There's an initial time when we will do a one-on-one with each of the participants and just kind of look at their blueprint, talk to them about the important things. It's like almost having an appointment, except they do the appointment themselves and they're kind of guided through it. It's a cool program. It's called Set Sail. And there's blogs on there. There are going to be very shortly other courses you can take, just one-off courses that you can download and listen to. So.
Beautiful, beautiful. Gosh, Carole, you've given us a lot to think about, and I am so grateful that you shared your journey with us. And I promised the listeners, if we had some time, that we would tell the funny story of our first encounter back in the early 90s, early to mid 90s, I guess it was. So I was working as the development program director rather, for a spiritual center in a suburb here in the Midwest. And I was looking for interesting things, speakers and classes to come in, and so that the people attending the spiritual center could be inspired in different ways. And so somehow I found out about you, Carole, and I invited you, and we had a wonderful conversation, and we became almost, I think, instant friends. At least that's what it felt like on my end.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then,
and I just want to insert that at that point, when you called me from that center, I was being dogged by churches who wouldn't lease space to me because it was Feng Shui, or people would walk out when I was the speaker because that was a religion and it was going to be against their religion. That was my paradigm right there, is like, oh, no religion is ever going to hire me, despite the fact it really has nothing to do with any religion whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly.
People were uninformed.
Right.
And so suddenly I get a call from Dawn, who said, well, I'm doing marketing for the center and we'd like you to come. And I'm going, well, look at that. How cool is that?
Well, and it was my naivete that let me do that, because I put a little ad. You agreed. I was so excited. I was telling everybody, and I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to put a little ad in the local newspaper. And so I did that, and I think I just said something about Feng Shui. I had your name in there, and that it's a way to make the spaces in your home beautiful and peaceful, or something like that. Yeah. And so all of a sudden, we started getting calls from the churches in the area our center was donating food to a local food bank. And the churches said, we don't want you to bring your food anymore. I said, why? And they said, because you've got that Feng Shui going on there. And we think it is like, I don't know that they used the word demonic, but they said it's not Christian. It goes against Christian principles, and we don't want your food. And so I did not tell you any of that, because I just felt that that was not going to be honoring what you had to offer. And plus, I didn't agree with them. I thought they were wrong. And so anyway, you came and did your class, and we had a packed house, as I remember, 30, 40 people. It was very exciting. And I never told you that happened. And then, of course, what I ended up doing after your class was I invited those churches to come to our center, and I explained to them that this is a 5,000-year-old practice. It's just about having nice energy in your home. There's nothing demonic about it. There's no Satan worship involved or anything like that. And they got it, and they said we could bring our food back to the food shelf again. But and then it wasn't until many years later, when you and I reconnected, that I told you that story.
And I was just like lollygagging through the whole thing, going, well, isn't this cool? Nice, this church, this little center is letting me come in here. Oh, I bragged about that. So we reconnected many years later, because then that place closed or something, and I moved on, and we found each other as friends will do. And at one point you said to me, by the way, you have to know what happened. And I guess it was fine. I didn't know that, but I would have been disappointed.
Yeah, exactly.
It felt like it was such a big breakthrough.
Yeah.
And it was.
Yeah.
And
And it was for the people there. And plus, I mean, it's funny to me now that, you know, you can walk into a Target or a Walgreens and see books on Feng Shui or this on Feng Shui. And then it was just so, you know, considered taboo or mystical or, you know, whatever. And so I'm very grateful how far we have come as a society and a culture. And so I want to thank you again. I'm going to read off a couple of upcoming events, and I am very, very grateful for your time, Carole, and your expertise.
Oh, and thank you for having me on. It's just an honor. You know, anytime I can do anything with your group, I thank you.
Yes, you're very welcome. So a few upcoming events. On Wednesday, May 1st, we will have our Bold Conversations, which is our monthly free talk and gathering at Barnes & Noble in Harmar Mall, Roseville, Minnesota, from 10 to 11 a.m. We have deep, thoughtful conversations and connect in meaningful ways. And at this May 1st gathering, we're going to be collecting gently worn clean bras for women who are being released from federal prison. So if that's something that speaks to you and you've got some time, we would love for you to drop those off. And if not, you can email me at dawn@venerablewomen.com and we'll work something out. September 21st and 22nd is a very big weekend. The 38th annual Women in Spirituality Conference takes place. The theme is Sisterhood, Wisdom, and Wholeness. And you can go to womeninspirituality.org. I'll be there doing a very special workshop and would love to see you. It's going to be a weekend of transformation. And so I wanted to let you know that the Venerable Women Empowerment Foundation is well into its first, 2 months of existence, and we've got lots of amazing things going on. Our Venerable Women Facial Serum 18, all profits from that go to support the foundation, and the foundation's work focuses on helping women leaving prison, and physically abused women and women who really can benefit from education of economic empowerment. And so to close out, I'll say in sisterhood, we trust our intuition, we make bold, inspired choices, and we take action to bring our wisdom to life so that we manifest a kind and loving world together. Every blessing. Thank you so much for listening to this sacred conversation. Thank you to our guest, Carole Hyder. We'll see you next month on May 21st. It's the same link each month. And until then, keep the sacred conversations going yourself and share this podcast with others who may benefit too. The podcast can be found on your favorite place to listen to podcasts, and it's simply called Venerable. And you'll see the series is called Women's Sacred Conversations. Embrace your venerability and see the venerability in all people. I love you all. Have a beautiful day.